Well, it is that time once again to be checking in with Christopher Eccleston's Ninth Doctor in another Big Finish audio drama review. In today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the concluding volume of the second series of Ninth Doctor adventures at Big Finish, in a volume entitled Shades of Fear. This release is available to order now from the official Big Finish website in multiple different formats, including physical CD, digital download, and limited edition vinyl. It can also be purchased as a part of a bundle alongside the other Ninth Doctor Series 2 adventures, and something of which to note is that the vinyl release is limited edition to 1,000 units, so once it is sold out, it is sold out for good. Now recently I did also take a look at the third volume within Series 2 of the Ninth Doctor Adventures, simply because I had quite a busy end to 2022, so I've kind of binge listened a lot of Ninth Doctor Adventures at once, and within that review I did discuss the direction of this series moving forward, in the hope that we would start to see plot arcs and things like that. Now, due to this being the concluding part of Series 2, I do hope that moving into Series 3 we will start to see more direction and the likes of plot arcs introduced in the future, but for now, once more, we have 3 further standalone stories. So for this box set, all of the episodes are roughly 50 minutes to 1 hour in length. The first episode is The Colour of Terror, as written by Lizzie Hopley. The second episode is The Blooming Menace, as written by James Kettle. And the third episode is Red Darkness, as written by Roy Gill. The Colour of Terror opens this set, and it's another very human feel-good story. It's a theme which has been utilised a number of times throughout the Ninth Doctor range so far, which I think in other eras could be described as repetitive, but with the Ninth Doctor I think it certainly works. It brings out some of the great strengths within Chris's performance as the Ninth Doctor, seeing him surrounded by weird and wonderful humans with very human reactions to things. This time we are in West Morbury's award-winning charity shop, except something evil is lurking in all things red. The Doctor arrives having detected radiation and wishes to figure out the source. It's soon clear that perhaps the big problem of the story isn't the alien, but instead getting the charity shop owner, Mrs. Bevel, to actually not make matters worse. I think it's a very real story, and if anything is probably how interaction with the Doctor in reality will probably play out. Someone refusing to accept absolutely everything and anything remotely strange, even if it's right in front of their eyes. The story has a community spirit, and I think Lizzie Hopley does a great job of bringing each person together. So we have the likes of Robbie, who has shoplifted in the past and is in desperate need of a fresh start through volunteering or doing service work at a charity shop, and then you have Frank Skinner's Pete, who has lost his cat he loves so dearly, and he seems to be a rather lonely character. There's also a rather sad relationship plot with a looming wedding, which allows us some very heartfelt scenes with Nine in the later half of the story, which I'm going to avoid talking about in too much detail, but it is quite nice the way it plans out. Again, I feel like this is another story which showcases how much the Ninth Doctor notices people and their situations. He sees the best in people, whilst also not letting himself be completely walked all over. Although I can't help but feel once more, there are characters in this story which, given a little bit more scene time, could have amounted to being a new companion. And yet the series has seemed rather reluctant to give the Ninth Doctor any travelling partners across all the volumes in this series so far. Which is of course something that I did mention quite frequently within my previous review of Hidden Depths. The Colour of Terror is a really easy story to listen to, and yet manages to present a really interesting technical theme regarding the use of the colour spectrum. The foe is creative along with the story's conclusion, although the foe themselves, being the Vermine, remain quite mysterious, to the extent that I think the listener doesn't get to know too much about them to actually form a connection to the Vermine being an actual threat. Which I suppose is a critique which applies to this story, which if you've listened to this box set, you may know a little bit more than I will be mentioning within this review, but it's safe to say that for this story in particular, it would have been nice to maybe see a bit more of the Vermine. It very much embraces to me that style of new series Doctor Who, where you could technically expand out this story into something much longer, but in reality, in doing so, it would just drag down the plot with technical terms which, yes, would explain more, but not give as pleasant of listening experience. The humans, on the other hand, sell the story, allowing for some natural dynamics to form. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's quite fun and an interesting way to open up this set. The Blooming Menace is the second episode of the set, written by James Kettle. This story sees the Doctor arrive in 1923 and become the valet to Toby Entwistle from a gentleman's club in London. However, it's soon clear that a certain plant has also come to London called the Eulalia, and the men of the city have rather fell in love with it. I actually listened to this story on Valentine's Day, which I thought was rather fitting, as the theme which runs throughout this episode is love in all of its many forms. The Doctor, being the Doctor that he is, embraces such narrative with a warm, kind heart. I think it's yet another rather feel-good story, if you forget about the killer plants. I did worry when this story started, as we were instantly introduced to an overly posh gentleman's club. I thought that we were going to have yet another commentary between the posh southern gentleman and the overly northern Doctor, which we've already seen. So I was really glad that this story did go down a different heartfelt avenue. A particular highlight for me is Dave Hearn as Toby and Milanka Brooks as Phil. The arc that these characters go on really complements the theme of this story, and I love the way that Nine subtly helps them along the way. I think that the Ninth Doctor is a little bit of a meddler, but in a really kind-hearted way. He gets things done and helps other people out in the process to make their life happier, albeit sometimes in indirect ways. In the later half of this story, we are also introduced to Mr. Burkitt. His involvement in the story is something that I'm not going to mention in too much detail for spoilers, but I would have really liked to see more of him within the episode itself. The story only comes in around the 46-minute mark in total, so a scene or two towards the start of the story detailing the origin of the plant may have aided the plot overall. We already know that the foe of the story is the plant themselves, so an early death wouldn't exactly ruin a surprise or anything like that, but instead I think perhaps raise the overall tensions of the story. Mr. Burkitt has a rather sad revelation, which I would have liked to see the story touch on a little bit more. I think that perhaps the revelation was covered rather quickly, and it may have benefited from a nice heart-to-heart with the Ninth Doctor. As always, I think that Christopher Eccleston's performance is a really pleasant one to listen to. The stories always feel guided within his presence. He adopts people like a magnet in each and every story, and that is what makes his stories so personal. Again, something of which that I mentioned within my review of Hidden Depths, so apologies for the repetition, but it's something that I really do feel passionate about when it comes to the Ninth Doctor adventures, is that at this point within the Ninth Doctor run, I feel satisfied as a listener that we've had enough singular stories. I worry that perhaps the series is starting to stray into a pool of non-linked plot. I suppose quite a similar thing to the Big Finish monthly range, which sometimes seen character development slow down quite a lot. For those who watch my reviews regularly, you will know that I like a series with intention, direction, and an overall aim that they are working towards. Although the Ninth Doctor stories do often have themes that connect them together, I think that it's time that Big Finish make that leap and give us a Ninth Doctor series which spans multiple box sets, with a clear direction and purpose, something akin to Dalek Universe, where you have a plot arc that ties all of the episodes together, with perhaps the odd standalone story in there as well, which are more out there and unique. I desperately want to see the Big Finish Ninth Doctor go on a clear emotional journey with purpose over the current format of wanderings in space and time. Give Nine a little personal dilemma to overcome, rather than simply being a lonely traveller. However, in summary for the Blooming Menace, I think that this is another great example of new series Doctor Who at Big Finish, a fast-paced dramatic story that captures the imagination, has rather bold characters but also feels very modern within its design. Although for those of you that are more used to complex Big Finish narratives, don't expect them to reinvent the wheel with this one. And some may see that as quite a big criticism, but to me, I think if you are wanting really complex, plot arc heavy Big Finish, there is undeniably lots of series out there which do cater to that, so there is also, on the opposite side of the coin, a massive benefit of having these standalone adventures, making it very accessible for those who simply want to dip in and out of some Big Finish stories when they feel like it. Roy Gill concludes this volume of the Ninth Doctor adventures with Red Darkness, and what an episode to finish on. The Vashtanarada are back, and once more Big Finish managed to expand these new series creations into something new and exciting. I don't quite understand why they haven't returned within the TV show itself, as they have sure made quite an impact. Due to the audio format, the Vashtanarada have been made a little bit more vocal and versatile. Here we see the Doctor land on Kailyard 5 after receiving a weird signal. Here he meets Callan and his fellow doggy companion Doyle, who can talk, and it's very exciting. I'm instantly sold by this trio. They work together superbly, and for me personally, I find it very exciting. Big Finish is a non-visual format, and it always baffles me how this isn't always used to its advantage, such as bringing back Frobisher the talking penguin. I've had dogs all of my life, and the concept of them being able to talk and go on big adventures is absolutely lovely. Callan is also a great character, with his mother on a scientific mission to figure out where all the people on the planet have gone, and to determine what lurks in the darkness. There is a great revelation within this story which makes the episode very specific to this set, not going to mention what it is, but I really love the surprise. I love the way that the surprise was used, but also it increased the stakes for this episode overall. The threat felt creative and quite scary, placing the Doctor in a difficult situation. Christopher Eccleston is also on top form as the Lonely Wanderer, and he has some great lines, and I really do think that Roy Gill writes him well. Bonus points for the additional reference to Scotland, which now seems to be an ongoing theme with the Big Finish Ninth Doctor adventures. Lennox is also another well-written character, using her expertise to find answers. She goes on a really emotional journey throughout the story that I actually found quite sad, in particular towards the end. It's another story that highlights the importance of life, loved ones, and surrounding ourselves with friends. I don't think the story falls into the trope of watch the shadows as much as I expected it to. As very much like the idea of the Weeping Angels and the don't blink tactic, it doesn't particularly build suspense in the same way that it does within the visual medium, so they need to get a little bit more creative as to how they represent that within the audio form, and they certainly do. The exact opposite of Mind the Shadows is used here. We have the use of light, science, and the story's location to really boost the narrative, making it a rather rich story. I think Roy takes so much care within his writing to make everything have a purpose. He's not just stuck a dog into the story for the laughs, he's gave Doyle a purpose, talents and ways in which that he can help defeat the foe. Likewise with Callan being partially colourblind, it makes the episode a really satisfying listen. Hands down, I would happily see more adventures with the Ninth Doctor, Doyle and Callan travelling the universe. Who knows, maybe Series 3 of the Ninth Doctor adventures will feature exactly that. I certainly hope so. I think that Doctor Who Shades of Fear leaves me in a rather unusual situation, and it is the same situation that Hidden Depths, the previous volume, also left me in as well. As I've mentioned throughout this review, I want to see the series move on from standalone stories in favour for a more plot arc driven direction. However, I really enjoyed this story, very much like how I enjoyed Flatpack within the previous volume as well. So I think it's definitely about striking that balance between having a plot arc, but also having standalone stories, simply to embrace Doctor Who's variety and make each individual set different, rather than in keeping directly with the plot arc that holds the entire series together. Again, very much like some of the earlier series within new series Doctor Who. Because of the standalone nature of all three stories within this set, I do always find it quite difficult to give the title of an essential listen to the Ninth Doctor adventures, because due to that separation between the stories, there is lots of variety, and going into these sets, there is going to be episodes that you enjoy a lot more than others. It all depends on your personal tastes, and sadly, due to these releases not being singular downloads, it's not like you can really pick and choose the episodes that you want to listen to, which tends to be why I think each set kind of has a selling point, be it the Return of the Brigadier or the Cybermen or Livchenko and the Sea Devils within the previous set. Each box set kind of has a marketing thing, and within this series, it was the Vashtanarada. What I would maybe recommend is the Ninth Doctor series is one of which that you can come back to every so often. If you feel like you want to listen to some Big Finish and you've maybe worked through every release that you have already, maybe purchase the odd Ninth Doctor box set here and there, perhaps when the series is on sale. It's something of which that at the minute I think it's very difficult to kind of binge listen through the entirety, because there's nothing actually holding these box sets together as an overall direction or series theme. So there we have it, that is my review of the Ninth Doctor Adventures Shades of Fear. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Overall, a box set once again of variety, and within it there will probably be something for everyone, and I'm hoping that in the future we will start to see a slight change in format with this series. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for regular Big Finish reviews. Have a nice day, and I shall see you all next time.